Thanks again for joining us here on High Plains History. I'm joined by Stacy Clopton from the Amarillo Public Library here on High Plains History. So we're going to talk a little bit about the history of the Amarillo Public Library. It's got a very fascinating history. So tell us a little bit about how the Amarillo Public Library got its start. I know it started with just a group of women who put their resources together.
Yeah, so they were a social club and they started in 1900, so 125 years ago. And they started as a social club, but quickly realized they wanted a purpose. They wanted to be serving their community in some way. And so they started the very first library. And part of it was that they each brought a book to every meeting. At the very first time they did that, they collected 33 books at their first Bring a Book meeting. And then Margaret Wills, who we have a school named after here in Amarillo, gave them 90 books that she had received from William Henry Bush of Chicago. And those were the first books that were part of the Amarillo Public Library.
And so I know it was called Just Us Girls Club.
Mhm. Yes, the Jug Club.
Yeah. And so how important is it for us to start a library with just, everybody coming together and going, hey, we want to kind of like start a library here in Amarillo. And so we'll put our resources together and we'll start it ourselves.
I think that it just tells you a lot about these women and who they were and what they wanted to do for their community. They were women that had books of their own, but they wanted to share with the rest of the community. And that's really what libraries do. They make knowledge and information and entertainment and education available to everyone.
So obviously we have way more than 125 books now than what they started with. So how does it grow from 125 books to the books
More
that
than
we have
half a million.
now? Yeah. How does it grow from that? So how does
Mhm.
how does the community grow those books?
So bit by bit, those everybody bring a book kinds of meetings continued. The First National Bank gave the Jug Club a room where they could have their library. And as time went by, the library became more and more important to the city of Amarillo, to the community of Amarillo. And so it lived, I guess, in a lot of different places. It had space over a post office at one point. It had space over the municipal auditorium at one point. Um, One of the most famous places that was the Amarillo Public Library is the Mary E. Bivens Mansion at 10th and Polk, where the Chamber of Commerce is now. And I still talk to people today who remember going to that library as a child or as a young adult, and it's one of their favorite memories is going to that library in that beautiful home.
Now I know the Potter County Library, the
Mhm.
the original library, that's still standing. It's on the Potter County grounds there. You can still see it. So talk a little bit about that original first library that's still there.
Right. So that was one of the iterations of the Amarillo Public Library, in a sense. There was a point where it was called the Potter County Library because it served Potter County, but it eventually became the Amarillo Public Library. And I believe that that building is the very first building in the state of Texas that was built for the purpose of being a library, which I think is pretty cool.
That is really cool. So when it comes to the library and just people again going, I want to go to the library. I want to get a book. We have of course library cards now.
Mhm.
So was it still that kind of process then of I got a library card, I want to check out a book, or how does that process work back in the day? Was it kind of the same way?
So it's interesting. Back in the very beginning, when the Just Us Girls Club was running their library, they charged you $1.50 membership fee to have a library card, and that was part of what financed the library. Today, of course, our library is funded as part of the city budget, so your library card is absolutely free if you live inside the city limits.
And so we go from all these different places and we go to the Bivens Mansion, but how do we get to the library that we know now? How do we get to that building?
Okay, so two things I will say. One is that the Amarillo Public Library system, as it exists today, is more than one building. It's five. We have our main library downtown in the center of the city, and then we have a branch library in every quadrant of the city. And I always want to give our city leadership from several decades ago, many decades ago, um, all the uh, all the credit and the kudos for recognizing that it was going to be really important to have library services available to every part of our community. So it doesn't matter where you live or where you work, you're going to be able to visit one of our libraries. So, but going back to that building on 4th and Buchanan, which is now our main library in the center of the city, that is a really cool story. So that building was completed in 1976, so it's almost 50 years old. And when it was time to move the books from the Mary E. Bivens Library on 10th and Polk to the new library on 4th and Buchanan, it was this massive undertaking, and it was a huge logistical feat. About 18,000 books were moved every day for 11 days. And it required just this amazing amount of organization because books were taken directly off the shelves in the Mary E. Bivens Library and put directly on the shelves in the new library. So they weren't put in storage and then shelved later. And that was the most efficient way to do it, but it really did require just an enormous amount of planning to make it all work out properly. But it did.
And so, and then going to the next question about the libraries and the other quadrants of the city, how do we go from that one library to now we have several across the city to where, if you live in the north side of Amarillo, you can have a library right there in your community. You don't have to go all the way to downtown Amarillo, but you can go to your neighborhood library to check out a book. How do we get to that point?
Well, again, that's that city leadership from decades ago, realizing what a hub and service the library was to the citizens of Amarillo. And so it was in the 1970s that there was a bond election that built the East and North Branch libraries. And so those libraries actually just celebrated their 50th anniversaries as well in 2024 because they were opened in 1974.
Wow.
And so those libraries have been opened. The Southwest Branch, is still on 45th, but it was originally in a smaller building. And that building, as Amarillo grew, that library became very, very busy. So it eventually moved to a new location with an even larger building. And then sometime after that, the Northwest Branch Library was constructed over on 9th Street. And it's near the medical center. It's near another part of Amarillo in a direction that it's growing. And so that's a very busy library as well.
And so, people know that you can go to the library, check out a book, and all that stuff. But what is some other things that the library does that people can do and go to? I know the mission of the library has probably expanded over the time of its existence. So what are some other things that the library provides that people can do and have all these resources?
So yes, we still have lots of books at the library, but our library today is so much more than that. And I would say that to some extent, libraries have always been more than books. There is a history of libraries around the country and around the world that have done innovative things, have found innovative ways to serve the populations of which they are a part. But at our library, in addition to even just our collection is bigger than just books. We have audiobooks for people who travel. We have movies. People can check out movies and audiobooks. We have, they're called Wonder Books, which are books that have built-in audio players. They're especially great for kids. They can read along on the page while they're listening to the audiobook. They can stop. They can get more information about a particular word. So those are very interactive and really cool. And that's just our collection. In addition to that, we have we have computer labs at every one of our 5 libraries. If you've got an Amarillo Public Library card or a card from any Harrington Library Consortium library, you can use a computer at the library. And I always say these days, most of us carry our computers around with us in our pockets, which is great. But if you're doing important work it's important to have a full-size screen and a full-size keyboard, and not everybody has that at home. So you can come and use a computer for free every day at the library. We also have free Wi-Fi for our card holders. So if you want to bring your phone or your tablet or your laptop to the library and take advantage of free Wi-Fi, you have that. We also have our makerspace, which is at the downtown library, and that is just a really cool trend in libraries. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a space where you come and make things. So we have sewing machines, we have leatherworking tools, we have supplies and tools for jewelry making, we have paper crafting, we have fine art supplies, and we have 3D printers. What is probably the star of the makerspace is our long arm quilting machine, because that is a pretty large piece of equipment. It's an expensive piece of equipment. And so for people who do quilting, even if they want to hand quilt the small pieces of their quilt top, to be able to do that final bit of quilting on a long arm machine is pretty amazing.
And so, and I also know you guys offer some classes and stuff like
Mhm.
that for people as well, so that people can, like you said, learn how to use a
Mhm.
computer. I know that was not too long ago where people could come in and, maybe they've never touched a computer before, but they can
Mhm.
learn the skills of how to use a computer. So, how important is it for you guys to also offer that kind of stuff at the Amarillo Public Library?
Oh, it's incredibly important. It's a huge part of what we do. And so we have programs at so many different levels. Now, you mentioned classes, and you mentioned computers. So we do have a digital literacy program that is part of the Amarillo Public Library. And as part of that, we have digital navigators who teach people how to use a computer. You can set up a one on one appointment with someone who can help you with something basic, like you're just starting with computers and you need to learn how to navigate the web and do it safely. Also helping people learn how to use their e-readers, for example. And so that's a great thing that we offer. And there are computer classes as a part of that digital literacy initiative as well. We also teach language classes. We teach English as a second language classes, and we do those 3 times a year. We have a spring term, a summer term, and a fall term, and we teach those downtown and at the East Branch Library. They're absolutely free. A lot of the people who take those classes are from all over the world. We have people who have come from Asia and Africa and South America, and they're all learning English because they want to be part of our community and they want to be able to contribute. And they make lifelong friends. It's awesome. And our East Branch Library actually teaches Spanish as a second language classes as well. So for people who have always wanted to learn Spanish or took it in high school but think they've forgotten everything, they can take that. And Elise teaches those, and she teaches a level 1 and a level 2, and she sponsors a conversation hour every other Wednesday so that people can practice their Spanish. So those are some great classes that we offer. They're all free. They're available to anyone. You don't even have to have a library card to come and take those classes. Um, in addition to that, we have programs that meet regularly for all ages. Like we do story times for kids. Every one of our 5 libraries offers at least one story time every single week. And library story times are amazing for kids. I just cannot stress that enough, because obviously they learn facts. You can go to a story time and you can learn about your colors and you can learn about numbers and you can hear a fun story, but they learn so much more. Kids who go to library story times learn how to be part of a group. They learn when it's their turn. They learn to wait their turn. They learn to be kind. When kids who have been going to library story times go to school for the first day, they're like, "Oh, I've got this. I know how to do this." And that can be the difference between a great first day of school and a really difficult and frustrating first day of school.
I know one of the best memories I ever have of the Emerald Public Library is during the summertime,
Yes.
doing the summer reading that you guys do at the public library, and going to the library, picking up a new book during the
Mhm.
summertime. and reading. So how important is it for you guys to also offer that for kids and having that as well?
So we have offered a summer reading club for more than 75 years at the Amarillo Public Library. So we're really proud of that. And it's so important in so many different ways. I want to be sure not to forget to mention that our summer reading club is not just for kids. Adults can sign up too. It is for all ages because reading is good for you at all ages. But it's important for kids because there's this really well documented phenomenon called the summer slide. And it basically means that kids start out at one level or leave school in May at one level, and over the course of the summer, they slide down. And so when they start school again in the fall, they are not picking up where they left off. And what the research shows is that kids who read regularly over the course of the summer, they can pick up where they left off, or they can even be a little bit ahead of where they were in May. And again, that's the difference between a great start to a new school year and a frustrating start to the school year. So, our summer reading club offers a lot of fun programs that kids can come and participate in. And we have programs for teenagers and adults as well. Those are all free. But the other important component of it is that we have a reading log, and everybody marks on their reading log every day that they read for at least 15 minutes because we want to develop a habit of regular reading. Um, it's not just how many books did you read. It's not how quickly did you read those books. It's did you read a little bit every day for a while? Because that's how you create a habit. That's how you get into the habit of reading that can stay with you for your whole life. And so, um, in our summer reading club, kids and adults and teenagers who reach their goal get a prize. The prize is to read at least 15 minutes a day for 30 days over the course of the summer. And the prize for kids is a brand new book that they get to take home and write their name in and keep forever. And adults can get a voucher for a free bag of books at the Friends of the Library book sale. Teenagers can choose. They can have either one, a new book or a voucher. And we just had our book sale a few weeks ago, and we collected well over 100 vouchers, people who had earned their vouchers over the summer, and they turned them in and they got their free books.
Wow. You guys also have a really great archive up there at the library as well. Fantastic archive. Talk to me a little bit about having that archive and where people can access that and being able to have that for the people here on the High Plains.
So that's another important thing that libraries do. You know, we keep the history, and we store so many things. And so we have a really fantastic reference collection that is just reference materials on a huge variety of subjects. We also have a special reference that is really information that is specific to this region. And we also have our rare books room, which is amazing. It's called the Bush Fitzsimon Room, and it's upstairs at the downtown library. And it is where we store, it contains 3 collections. So it has the books that were given to the library by William Henry Bush, who I mentioned had given books to Margaret Wills, but he gave more books to the library later. And then also the collection given to the library by Monsignor Lawrence Fitzsimon, who was the first Catholic bishop in this region. And that collection is a lot about how the Catholic Church helped fuel the expansion westward. And then we also have the McCarty papers, which are the papers of Mr. McCarty, who was the publisher of the Dalhart Texan and the Amarillo Globe News. And he collected just a huge amount of history of this region and wrote stories and columns. And so those collections are housed in the Bush Fitzsimon Room, along with anything else that's very rare or fragile that was donated to the library. And people come from all over the country to do research in that room. In fact, Ken Burns, when he was working on the documentary about the Dust Bowl, sent researchers to the Amarillo Public Library to do research in those collections.
Wow. And that's what I was going to ask you. My next question was, Do you guys have any of the books that were donated early on, the 100 and some books that were donated early on? Do you guys have that still at the Emerald Public Library?
I'm gonna say I'm pretty sure. That is a question I would have to double check with our reference staff to know for sure, but I believe so. As part of that collection of rare books in the Bush Fitzsimon room.
That's, I mean, that would be incredible to see some of those early books. Do you know some of the books that were maybe donated early on of what would have possibly been donated or what possibly people were reading back then?
Um, I can tell you that on um, the very first time the members of the Jug Club placed an order for books from funds that they had collected through their fundraising, they ordered um, the Bible. They ordered Little Women and Little Men by Louisa May Alcott. They ordered Cooper's Leather Stocking Tales and Mrs. Wiggs of the Cabbage Patch were among that first order ever placed.
So some pretty classic books there.
Mhm.
So okay, so a lot maybe a little bit different than what maybe some people are reading today, but maybe some of the same things that people are reading today.
People have never stopped reading Little Women. I will say that. People are still reading Little Women. But yeah, there are books that stay with you for a very long time. And there are other books that are great books or were great books, but they do sort of fade out because other books come along. You don't want to continue, you don't want to just read the same books that people were reading in 1910. You want to read the books that people read in 2025 and that tell the stories of lives that people are living today. So that's why I always say our library collection is a little bit like an ecosystem because every day something goes out and every day something comes in. We're constantly updating the collection and making it relevant for our patrons.
And you said how many books does the Emerald Public Library have now?
We have about 500,000 items. So that would include our books, our audiobooks, and our movies.
And how do you guys keep up with stuff, all of that stuff?
Oh, well, it's a big job and it requires a lot of teamwork. But the staff at the library are doing so many things. The public will see them helping you check out a book, or they'll see staff doing a story time or offering a program. They might ask a librarian a question and get an answer for it. But sort of behind the scenes, our library staff are reviewing the books that are on the shelves. They're checking for books, for example, okay, we've had this book for a few years and it hasn't been checked out for a couple of years. We can let this book go, and that will allow us to have room on this shelf for something else. Also, behind the scenes, new books and movies and audiobooks arrive at the library every day to be processed and added to the collection. That's something that the public doesn't see, but it's an integral part of keeping our collection relevant.
And when you mean let a book go, is that something that is at the books? Is that the book sale, or is that something that you guys donate to somebody else?
So books that are weeded out of the collection go into the Friends of the Library book sale. And in a minute, I'll tell you more about the Friends. But that allows them to go to a new place. And again, it makes room for us to have new things added to the collection.
And then tell us a little bit about the Friends of the Emerald Public Library.
So the Friends of the Amarillo Public Library are an amazing organization, and they make possible a lot of the things that we do. They are an independent, not-for-profit organization. They're a 501c3, and their mission is to support the library. So they raise funds, and those funds go to pay for things that are not part of our regular budget. Our budget from the city pays for our building, it pays for our staff, it pays for our collection, it keeps the lights on. It doesn't pay for milk and cookies at a story time, for example. It doesn't pay for author visits. It doesn't pay for craft supplies at a program that we might offer. And it doesn't pay for the summer reading club at all. That huge program that is so important and that makes such a difference in so many people's lives is entirely funded by the Friends. So the Friends raise money in a couple of ways, and one of them is that book sale that I mentioned. So they have 3 book sales a year, and people can come and purchase books for their home library, and all of the funds raised at that sale go to the Friends, and the Friends use them to support the library.
And I know the big event that you guys have is Amicon, which helps also with Friends of the Emerald Public Library helps put on. It's a massive event. I think didn't you guys just have your 10th one?
I believe it was our 11th.
11th.
Let's see. I would have, so the first one was in 2012, and we had one every year since then except for 2020. In 2021, we actually had it outside because we were still dealing with COVID then, but we didn't want to cancel the event 2 years in a row. So we had that, and so that would have been, so that was our 13th. We just had our 13th Amicon.
Okay. So yeah, and it seems like it keeps getting bigger and bigger every year, and more people keep coming out. So it's, I mean, it's a really big event, I know, for the community.
It's so fun. We like to call Amicon a celebration of everything that is geeky and awesome. So it is about science fiction, it's about anime, it's about manga, it's about comic books and superheroes and steampunk and anything and gaming. All of those things that bring joy and keep people active, keep their brains active. They're really awesome. And so we have vendors who come from hundreds of miles away to be part of Amicon. We bring in authors and artists and voiceover actors, and fans have a chance to meet these amazing creative people. And they get to hang out with their friends, and people come in costume. I'm always amazed at the costumes that people wear to Amicon because they're so creative and they're just fantastic.
Of course, when people want to go to I mean, library, I mean, obviously, if they want to go to the library, I guess when are your hours at the Emerald Public Library?
So all 5 of our libraries are open on the same schedule. So we are open from 9 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And then on Friday and Saturday, we're open from 9 to 6. And we're open on Sundays from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. So, except for a few holidays throughout the year, we are open 7 days a week. And people can take advantage of everything that we offer. And that's one of the things I'm just really so proud of our library for, because people need the library. They need a place to go. They need a place to work. They need to be able to learn things and enjoy things. And the library is always here for them.
All right, Stacey, we appreciate you being here on High Plains History. I don't think I can add anything more to that. So thanks for joining us here on High Plains History.